The Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Saskatchewan Pulse Growers and Nodulator XL.
Well, with pulses, we're fortunate because pulses, for the majority of the ones that are in the ground at this point, faba beans, peas, lentils, they have growing points that are below the ground. So even though the frost can burn off the top of the plants, they'll start regrowing from areas that are lower down. Unlike canola, where the above ground part is the growing point, and once that's froze off, that canola plant is done. With peas and lentils and faba beans and chickpeas, although there wouldn't be much up during this frost that has just happened. So we're going to mainly focus on the peas and lentils and faba beans. The growing points just further down can regrow, and you end up with a little bit delay in maturity, but you don't lose your crop. So we have a pea plant here that is just newly emerged, just come up in the last few days, and no sign of frost damage. We can see the different staging with the crop. We can see the lowest node. The two lower nodes are typically called the scale leaves, and it doesn't start its first true leaf until the third node stage. So in the case of this plant, if we were looking at staging, it'd be 1, 2, 3, and the fourth node would be coming out here. Otherwise, it's also considered the 2 true leaf stage. So when you're looking at herbicide staging, you really need to know what the labels are referring to. If they're referring to node stage, in some cases they refer to above ground nodes. So it can be a bit confusing, but just really look at your plant and really determine what that herbicide label is referring to. In terms of frost damage, we have a plant here that we can see the top of it was damaged by some frost from a few days ago, and you can already see the growth occurring in these 2 lower node areas compared to what the other pea plant was. If I put them up together, you've got 2 pea plants. The one on the right is got some frost damage, but is continuing to grow from those lower node areas, where the one on the left is continuing above ground, and it's starting to start at the lower stages too. It typically takes 4 or 5 days till you start seeing the regrowth. So you may go out in the field and you can see the frost damage in terms of the wilted plants and the watery appearance, and you can tell that the tops are damaged, but you won't really start seeing that regrowth till at least 3 or 4 days, and in some cases up to a week afterwards, where you really see the evidence of that secondary growth. Okay, so here we have a field of lentils and some lentils that we have dug up. First thing that you will notice with the lentils is they definitely have a smaller root system to start with and smaller stems. In this field was seeded a little bit deeper than what the peas were in the previous field, so it was at about this depth, so close to 2 inches. It's similar to staging as it is to peas, but with lentils it's a little bit more difficult because you have to see, let me get rid of that one, so I'm dealing with less plants. There's 2 really tiny scale nodes. Just like peas, there was 2, but it was easier to find them. With lentils, the 2 are there again, so those are your first 2 node stages. Then each set of leaflets would be considered a leaf, so that would be your first leaf stage there. And your second leaf stage. And it's already getting to be the 3rd leaf stage with these lentils. So again, the first 2 nodes are your scale leaves, and then your true leaves start. So when you're staging lentils, again, you want to start with your node stages. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 node stage, or 3 true leaf. Again, watch what your chemical labels and herbicide labels are suggesting for staging in terms of when herbicides should be applied. So these ones are fairly small yet, but they do advance quite quickly, a leaf stage every 4 or 5 days. So it's time to start monitoring soon for herbicide applications for in-crop weed control.